Kaspersky successfully concluded its APAC Cybersecurity Weekend 2024, focusing on AI's impact and its crucial role in shaping a secure digital future. DT covered the entire event in Colombo, Sri Lanka, to capture the latest developments and insights. During the event, Rajeev Ranjan, editor of Techbiz TV, a video platform by DT, exclusively interacted with Mr. Vitaly Kamluk, cybersecurity expert from Kaspersky. He talked about the most pressing cybersecurity issues, the current and future landscape, and solutions to safeguard the digital assets. Check out this exclusive conversation with Vitaly. Thanks for the opportunity. So, Vitaly, you highlighted the significant threat posed by supply chain attacks on critical infrastructure in your presentation. So, can you elaborate on the potential impact of these attacks on industries such as healthcare, banking, and aviation, especially in our region, or if you can add on India?
All right. Well, yeah, I mentioned today that our supply chains concept has evolved when we entered the digital era, when we became dependent on the digital products and technologies and services. So if previously it was a supply chain, like one company supplies another, now it's more like a supply mesh. It's a complex network of relationship between different companies, entities supplying one another. And it becomes so complex for the sake of improving performance and the overall product, but at the same time it introduces additional risks, because every component's failure is something that the rest of the chain, that the rest of the mesh may instantly feel. And that is what we have observed, for instance, in case of the recent IT crisis, right? That happened just a little bit more than 2 weeks ago with one of the vendors which product was installed in so many places, from airports to healthcare to shipping companies to transportation services and governments and so on. And everybody equally got affected just because it was one big important component in their IT infrastructure. So yeah, my talk today was about highlighting how fragile this can be, because people they reap the benefits of technology. They live with it. They introduced and embraced it in their lives, but they don't understand that this is very, very fragile and sensitive matter. And if one fails, we all experience huge crisis and big impact.
What lessons you would like to share on such incidents to the companies who are responsible, who are into the same business? What lessons you can pass to them?
Oh, those are a very clear, I'll say, lesson, quick takeaway, which was hinted by the company itself. We're talking about CrowdStrike incident, right? They have mentioned that the deployment process, the delivery of the updates for the solution was not probably, if you can call it perfect. It was like they're going to improve this from now on. It's going to be kind of multi-staggering approach where the updates will be rolled out gradually, not like one and for all, but slowly unrolling. And then they also said that they will implement a better testing, so that means quality assurance was not at the level that is required for such a widespread product. And that's what companies can do. Like whenever you produce something, if you're part of somebody's supply chain, if you're providing services or products or materials to somebody else, make sure that you guarantee the quality and you test it 1,000 times before you offer this to somebody upper in the chain or in the mesh.
That's very essential. These are the key takeaways which your company should understand, and we'll pass this message to our readers. You mentioned the potential for supply chain attacks to manipulate machine learning models by reducing biases and vulnerabilities. Can you explain how these attacks could be executed and what measures can be taken to secure AI training data and models?
Oh yeah, there are plenty of different ways how this attack may affect AI businesses, because what will be AI in the future? There will be separation of roles in the AI. There will be companies that are crafting the training data sets. There will be companies that are running data centers and farms, training farms to create the models. There will be those who will refine that, and there will be, of course, consumers, and there will be a lot of businesses around this. And all of them may be vulnerable to attacks onto, data sets. For example, starting from the beginning, like it can be, let's say, an attempt to inject wrong data sets in the training phase, or attempts through like insider attack potentially to replace the whole trained model with a different one. Or another angle would be to attach unnecessary, let's say, redundant, or let's say even potentially dangerous tooling to the trained model, so that it can be used with a sort of triggers to jailbreak the confined environment where AI normally sits and works and operates, and then it can change things outside of that environment, so that it will lead to a compromise of the whole network or the system where the AI software is running. So injecting these tools and empowering, connecting to the model can be dangerous too, and that's another angle of attack. And if you ship this to consumers, then be it biased models, polluted models, replaced models, hijacked, tampered, or empowered with additional tooling, then of course it creates all kinds of risks, essentially leading to data leaks or compromise of the companies that deploy these products.
Right. So we were more talking about the incidents which had happened recently, and we were talking more on that. But overall on cybersecurity, what are the top 2-3 trends you see and company needs to act in coming months, or they should have proactive action against those cyber attacks?
Certainly hard to predict for a couple months ahead, to be honest. Like we used to have, like I remember when I joined the company like almost 20 years ago, like we used to have this monthly review of malware trends, and we would have like families of malware, like one is taking over another one. It was like a race of different malware families. Some of them would cause epidemics, some of them would be spread through spam campaigns and so on. Nowadays it's hard because we're talking about like over 400,000 malicious samples a day that Kaspersky is receiving and adding to their database of badness. And it's not the same like previously. When I joined, we were talking about hundreds of files, or maybe a couple thousands a day. And that was something that people could process, and you could see the obvious trends. Nowadays, it's different scale, I would say. So it becomes harder to project for, let's say, short term. For the long term, this is what brings us to CSW events like what we are at now, to talk about the future, like a distant future, the post-AI era, when AI becomes everyday necessity. Like everywhere you go, there's an AI, maybe in elevator, in your car, in your kitchen, like in your office, everywhere. And we're talking about threats of the future, which, like I said, are related to potentially supply chain attacks, but I will say other ways of like abusing AI, using AI against the purpose it was originally designed for. Like my colleagues mentioned, possibility to create unlimited number of deepfakes, and then trick people into believing they are talking to their relatives or friends or colleagues, to manipulate them with a next level, next generation social engineering. And this what probably can be the nearest trend that may be happening, because we feel now that it might be kind of a golden age for AI-powered scams. Why? Because people are not yet used to this type of scam. We're all used to possible like spam calls and robocalls, probably, right? Everyone has experienced in one form or another, some sort of spam messages or robocalls. But the next generation AI high quality produced content, when you see the face of somebody and you hear the voice of somebody you recognize, and then they ask you to do something to help them in trouble, like this is what people are not prepared for. So I would say in the short term that would be the biggest concern. It's not necessarily malware related, but this is related to the new powers that AI brings to the world and to the bad guys. They will definitely make their efforts to abuse this before AI is regulated, restricted, controlled through government policies, and somehow made inaccessible to them. Before police becomes used to AI-related cases of deepfakes and AI-powered scams. So right now there's kind of this time when things are still wild, like it's a wild west in a way. So things may go wrong, and people should be aware. And the faster we spread the awareness, the better it will be for the population.
Right. So thanks for sharing this. This is very critical for our audience to know about. One part is we are more talking about as you are part of research teams and all. So on basis of that, okay, what Kaspersky has to offer to the organization, different organization, especially in Indian market or around the Indian market. So what can be the top two, top three solutions which they need to look on, which they can rely and they can deploy in their premises to avoid any kind of attack or ransomware, which is a concern.
Well, it depends really like who you're trying to protect. For consumers, it can be one set of product solutions. For businesses, it's a different one. So businesses need somewhat consolidated view on what's happening in the infrastructure. For this, they have like EDR solutions. They have sensors and monitors with a centralized console where the people can see the security-related events. CISO and security operators, if it's a bigger company, then like the whole security operations center can track and monitor what's happening in the network. So these products are, I would say, essential nowadays. For the consumers, just normal people, like for everyday use, I think some of the critical, important solutions are just a good password manager. First of all, many of us forget that reusing passwords, like you cannot really, keep remembering new passwords again and again, and we have like dozens, hundreds of services now, and all of those credentials have to be unique and have to be hard to guess, and that means them hard to remember. So people start using like text files sometimes, and then these text files get stolen by the malware or the bad guys. So it's not the way. Of course, it has to be a proper password manager. So Kaspersky provides one such solution for the consumers to keep this in encrypted form, inaccessible to the malware. And then if it comes with a suite of security components from like anti-malware, then it can also protect your system from even executing that malware in the first place, so that these passwords cannot be exfiltrated or accessed. So personal security products, I would say, and password manager. And another thing is a good VPN as well is essential for consumers, I would say, because all of us kind of travel and connect to public Wi-Fi networks. And let's say less trusted Wi-Fi networks, especially like when we are abroad, and that can be the source of problems. I've seen recently been a case of arrest in Australia in airports of Australia. I can't remember which city was that, but it was a gentleman who was actually running a number of fake access points that mimicked the legitimate access points, and you would then intercept the traffic and then steal credentials for social media. Because, like, when you connect to the Wi-Fi network, they require some sort of authentication, even if it's an open network. Sometimes it's an SMS that you need to receive, or a code you need to provide, or an email address you need to enter. So in this case, he was pushing people towards logging into their social network and kind of providing fake pages for that, so that they would key in their credentials, and then he would collect that and potentially sell in the future. So yeah, like be very careful with this. Like, use VPN when you connect to public Wi-Fi networks. Use a good password manager, and then personal security product.
Obviously, it's not a one-time shortcut formula that we need to remember. It's a long journey. Like, we are living this life. We have to be under the cover of cybersecurity, not for the consumer as well as for the businesses side. We have seen that India is on 19th number in some of the reports generating the attacks or ransomware. I saw that slide. So what can be the reason why these reasons are being now? Usually the European sites or the US sites, they used to be the main source of such things. Why do you see the increases here?
Oh yeah, well, what you have seen in Igor's presentation about the statistics, it was just APAC focused. It was not like of course we have the world top, but India was just in the top from APAC countries. So of course, there are other places, like if you take Netherlands, for example, it has too many data centers, too many hosting providers, and we see a lot of attacks originating from that infrastructure. So they have just huge IP space as well, and we see them as being like source of many bad things. It doesn't mean that it's somehow supported by the government. It's just they have vast infrastructure, big infrastructure that is leveraged by the attackers. They can also use hacked servers or even use maybe stolen credit cards to purchase hosting services and then abuse that. And this is why we see the bigger the infrastructure, network infrastructure, and hosting infrastructure of the country, the more attacks will be naturally originating from the country, and this is where I think India was in one of the tops for this reason. Just India also is just by itself a huge country, a lot of infrastructure, and a good part of it is unfortunately abused by the bad guys, and for this reason it shows up in the top. But it's not in the top of the world sources of attacks.
Obviously, we don't want to be top of that world. And so moving to one part, because the open source is a one concern, because engineers and the developers use those open source platform to develop some AI solutions. So what can be done from perspective of if I'm using that open source, what I should notice first, and is there any tool to check on that these developments of these AI solutions can't be compromised and I should use it?
Good point. Well, for open source projects and libraries, there's a lot of initiatives now to try and protect them. For instance, if you take things like Node.js, for example, or some Python libraries, Python modules, there's no community-driven effort to flag vulnerable components or maybe fake developers that may spread malicious code injected into replicas of original code. So the community efforts are there, so they're trying to keep an eye on that. For the AI, it is not yet ready because it's such a new thing, but security researchers are looking into this for sure. They have already started checking for potential vulnerabilities and vulnerable models that are offered on special, say, kind of marketplaces or repositories where anybody can buy or download for free and use some of these models. And those models turn out to be vulnerable. Yeah, so there's a nice talk about this at Black Hat US. It's happening around these days actually. So in United States in Las Vegas, there's a conference running. And yeah, I remember some submission there was related to exactly this situation. So it is, I would say, a matter of the future to kind of standardize this and to build a community and way to identify and flag the malicious models in more organized, systematic fashion. Right now, things are only building up. So I think it's too young area.
Yeah, so quickly I need to conclude the discussion because we have a fixed deadline. So I would like to leave a message for Indian people or organization that this is a need of our AI is there. What will be your direct message to them?
I used to say that people are more trustful when they go online, just because if you compare to the physical world, when some stranger comes to you in the street and asks you, "Would you follow me? I have something interesting for you," likely you would not follow, right? With internet, penetrating our life from all sides, we kind of lost this, and people online feel much more safer comparing to the physical world. So sometimes they fall for these tricks by the bad guys online. But I used to say this for more than a decade now and educate people not to trust strangers online. Now we are entering a new age when it will not be strangers anymore. It will be some people that you know, people that you trust, people that you never questioned. And that is a big threat, big problem that AI introduces, because with the help of AI, it can be applied to anyone, from small family to small and medium business to large corporation, to trick them into doing something that will lead to a financial loss in the end. So my only message and my only advice to everyone in India and beyond is trust but verify whenever it comes to critical transactions related to money, property, something that you own, something that can be taken from you, be it your social media account, your email, your phone number, anything. If somebody asks you and you feel that it is related to the property that you own, and even if it is coming from somebody you trust, try to get in touch with that person through a different channel, a side channel, not the same, and ask the same question. Are you sure I've received this request from you? Was it you or was it AI? So then we will be safe.
Of course, means there are a lot of learning which will be coming, and the events like this will help us and our readers also and audiences also to know more about the trends. Vitaly, thank you so much. It's a great talking to you.
My pleasure.
And you had a lot of information, but we had a limited time, so we'll wind up this discussion. Thank you so much. Thanks again.
Thank you. Stay safe.